It's the weekend update edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, as we come to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective residences. Wade is south of Columbia. I'm north of Columbia. We'll be with you here for the next 2 hours discussing sports topics of local, regional, and national concerns. So stay with us. We're going to have fun. Hope you do as well. Wade, how's your Friday?
Man, Friday's off to a pretty good start. You and I were discussing Mother Nature yet again is trying to, dampen the afternoon. But you know what? We're thriving. We're enjoying the Friday, man. It's good to be back with you guys and ready for a good show today and ready for hopefully a good weekend.
Absolutely. Good show, as you mentioned. In our second hour, we're going to be speaking with VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports, going to talk a little Nashville Soccer Club as they head into Saturday's matinee contest over at Geodis Park against Atlanta United, and they'll be down a couple of folks. We discussed it a little bit yesterday. We'll discuss it a little bit more in the second hour. In our next segment, we will check in with Jeff Him, the play-by-play voice of the Nashville Sounds. He is in Duval as the Sounds take on the Jumbo Shrimp of Jacksonville, continuing their series down there. So I'm looking forward to speaking with Jeff as we try to do every road series Friday with him. So a couple of great guests. We'll also be talking some Braves as they get ready for a 4-game wraparound weekend series with San Diego down at Truist, and Houston Astros, Wade, showing some signs of life all of a sudden.
Yeah, they look halfway decent. I don't know if that says more about them or more about the competition they were playing. But hey, wins are wins, right?
That's it. That's it. They all count the same. There's no asterisks next to them. So we'll see if they can get a few more as Milwaukee comes into Minute Maid Park this weekend. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. We have some local postseason college play, both baseball and softball, in progress and looming. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And the weekend update, we will touch on what we're looking forward to later this weekend as the Cats go up to Clarksville for a matchup. We don't have our alt football expert with us, but we'll try to talk a little UFL as they go into week 8 of their season. The Preakness is this weekend. We've managed to not mention that all week, but we probably should have. And the NBA playoffs are continuing, and there's some interesting stuff going on over there. So yeah, we will get into all of that again here over the next couple of hours. So stick with us. We are looking forward to doing so. And I guess, Wade, we should start before we go any further with yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
The Friday Rundown is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The Blue Raider Voice also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate, so contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or visit his website at choosechip.net. That's Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
High school baseball results from Thursday. Beach with a 6-0 win over Lincoln County. Boyd Buchanan defeated Friendship Christian 7-2. Riverdale and Bradley Central split a pair down in Cleveland. The Warriors winning 8-0. The Bears winning 8-4. Collierville and Clarksville split a pair yesterday, with the Dragons winning 9-3 and the Wildcats winning 5-0. Christ Presbyterian bounced back from a loss on Wednesday to sweep Knoxville Catholic 9-6 and 12-2. Eagleville with a 17-0 win over Collinwood. Smith County edged East Nashville 0. Huntingdon with a 1-0 win over Summertown, also defeated Summertown 5-2, sweeping that series. Nolansville with a pair of wins, 2-0 and 1-0 over Green Hill. It was Siegel 3, Cleveland 2. South Pittsburgh with a 6-4 win over East Robertson. Station Camp 12 Chester County 9, and White House Heritage takes a pair from Whites Creek, 17-0 and 22-0.
Whew, big results there for Heritage. Softball scores. We just had one on the docket yesterday. We'll get into more softball in a moment. But last night it was Gordonsville defeating Joe Burns. 3-2 was your final score there. In men's soccer action last night, Hendersonville knocked off Beach 5-3. Station Camp picked up a 3-2 win versus MLK. It was Ravenwood 3, Brentwood 1. Harpeth was a 2-1 winner versus Westview. Liberty Creek defeats White House Heritage 2-1. As Mo mentioned, the Astros defeated the Athletics last night, 8-1. Good win for Houston there. The Sounds picked up a 5-2 win versus Jacksonville as that series continues. More on that in a moment. And in the WNBA last night, very lopsided score as the Liberty crushed the Indiana Fever. 102-66 was your tally.
Yeah, points differential in the Fever's 2 losses to this point, 57. Baseball. This one should be going on as we speak, as Riverdale played at Bradley Central. That was a 1:00 start. I don't know if that was 1:00 Eastern or 1:00 Central, but regardless, they should be playing for sure. Softball, 5:00 first pitch. Smyrna is at Walker Valley. Again, I don't know if that's Eastern or Central. Sorry. 6:00. These are all Central Time starts. Hollow Rock Brewston is at Eagleville. Lexington travels up to Greenbrier. East Hamilton is at Stewart's Creek. That's a 6:30 start. No times available for Dixon County at Arlington, Macon County at Creekwood, Westmoreland at East Nashville, Lincoln County at Green Hill, Summertown at Huntingdon, Procona at Liberty Creek, Mount Juliet at Nolansville, or Joe Burns at Whitwell. On Sunday at 4:30, Cheatham County will play at Community.
Boys soccer schedule. These games are all set to take place tomorrow. Saturday kickoffs for the following matchups. A couple of them we have times. We have more that we don't have start times for, but buckle up nevertheless, as Chattanooga Christian is set to play Father Ryan, and Laverne is set to visit Howard. Again, both of those contests are scheduled to take place at 6 p.m. Other games on the schedule: BGA at Boyd Buchanan. MLK will be at Chester County. CPA is at Christian Brothers. University School of Nashville taking on Grace Christian Knoxville. Cascade will be at Harpeth. Brentwood is at Hendersonville. It's Clarksville at Houston. Independence Academy at Liberty Creek. Innsworth will be at McCauley. MBA at MUS. Beach at Ravenwood. It'll be Walker Valley at Rockvale. Bartlett will travel to Rossview. Central Magnet out of Murfreesboro will be at South Doyle. Lexington will travel to Station Camp. And White House Heritage will visit STEM Academy.
Professional sports action this weekend, starting today in the majors. Again, at 6:20, San Diego is at Atlanta. You can see it on Bally Sports Southeast. At 7:10, Milwaukee is at Houston. Tomorrow, 6:10 start for Milwaukee at Houston, 6:15 for San Diego at Atlanta, and that game is on Fox. Boo. Sunday, 1:00 first pitch as Milwaukee and the Jacksonville with a 6:05 start tonight, a 5:35 start tomorrow, and an afternoon game beginning at 1:05 on Sunday. In WNBA action this weekend, Washington travels to Connecticut today. That's a 6:30 tip. You can see it on Ion, followed at 8:30 on Ion by Seattle at Minnesota. On Saturday, you've got 4 games. Indiana is at the Liberty. That's a 12 noon tip on ABC, followed at 2:00 on ABC by the Sparks at the Aces. These last 2 games are on NBA TV. Chicago is at Dallas. That's a 7:00 start, followed by the Atlanta Dream at the Phoenix Mercury. And Sunday at 2, Seattle is at Washington. MLS action, as we mentioned, the Nashville Soccer Club will host Atlanta United. That's a 12:45 first touch. You can see it on Fox and on Apple TV. And that is your rundown. Our top story today brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly over in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and get through there for their delicious daily deli lunch or dinner options, as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia, bringing you our top story, and it's a doozy. Every sports media outlet in the free world has this, but I'm looking at an article on CBS Sports. Scotty Scheffler arrested while trying to enter Valhalla release before round 2 of 2024 PGA Championship. The number 1 player in the world was detained outside the golf course Friday morning following a chaotic incident. So apparently there was a vehicular accident that involved a fatality near the golf course this morning, and as a result, traffic was predictably chaotic, for lack of a better word. Scotty Scheffler, trying to get to the golf course, apparently had some issues with some of Louisville's finest, eventually wound up being charged with assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding traffic signals from an officer. Those look like they're in reverse order, maybe. But detained at 6 a.m. Eastern, booked around 7:30, released on his own recognizance at 8:40. Arriving at Valhalla about a half hour later, he changed, ate breakfast, and eventually visited the driving range about 30 minutes before his rescheduled 10:08 Eastern tee time, in which he promptly proceeded to birdie the first hole. And what's the latest, Wade?
Latest I've got, Scotty is 4 under for the day, 8 under for the tournament. He's in sole possession of 5th place. So despite a crazy morning, is coming out and playing pretty well, it looks like, and at least right now is in the top 5.
A fatal accident involving a tournament worker being hit by a shuttle bus occurred outside the venue before Scheffler arrived. That slowed traffic near the entrance to the golf course and delayed the second round by an hour and 20 minutes. Scheffler, in an officially marked PGA Championship vehicle, was driving toward the golf course when a police officer stopped his car. Scheffler tried to enter the property after a confusing and chaotic exchange, according to ESPN's Jeff Darlington, who was actually on the scene. That's wild. The officer attempted to attach himself to Scheffler's car, per Darlington, at which point Scheffler stopped at the entrance and began following instructions to exit the vehicle. As he was complying, Scheffler was reportedly pulled out of the vehicle, shoved against it, handcuffed, and detained. So, interesting chain of events, to say the least. And obviously, I don't know that we know everything that has taken place, and we may not know everything that has taken place for some time, if ever. But that's just wild.
Yeah, crazy situation. And I wake up this morning much later than Scotty Scheffler, and
Yes,
it was a crazy ordeal, as obviously very tragic with the situation, obviously with the loss of life there.
Mm-hmm.
But then things just get out of control and just wild as Scheffler. I got a number of different questions. Number one, I found it interesting that he was driving himself. I guess maybe didn't want to inconvenience anybody. He said, hey, to my driver, no need to get up that early. I'll just drive myself over there. But I found it was interesting. He was actually driving. And then the other crazy thing is that they had the delay at the event. If that delay had not occurred in regards to the tee times, I'd be really curious what would have happened. You're potentially looking at him obviously just having to forfeit or withdraw from the tournament. So it's crazy how all this worked out. And there's even video. You mentioned Jeff Darlington's got video right there on the scene, which is pretty wild. He even caught some loose commentary from the officers who didn't shocker. enjoy him being kind of right there in the mix.
Mhm.
But as wild as that was, there's also video of at least a couple of guys. I know Will Zalatoris and Cameron Young. The traffic got so bad at some point for them, they actually just got out of the vehicles they were in and they just walked to the entrance about half a mile. So kind of a wild situation this morning. Obviously, I assume we're going to learn a little bit more as soon as Scotty gets done with his round, although his attorneys I love this line. Where did I see this on The Athletic here? His recently hired Louisville attorneys, obviously you just grab somebody in a pinch there. They're probably not going to release too much details, but his press conference is going to be wild as soon as he comes off the course here. And as we mentioned, playing well, comes out birdies number 1, bogeys number 2, but then also follows up with a birdie on 3. So he's dialed in today. He's 5 under for the day now. He just hit another birdie, so he's technically tied for second at the moment. He is the number 1 player in the world, and when he kind of gets dialed in, they say that he takes it even to a higher level. And then you think this would go one of 2 ways, and it clearly looks like it went the other way. A ticked off Scotty Scheffler is not to be trifled with, I suppose.
Hey, yeah, I mean, again, he, like you said, he's definitely dialed in. He's definitely focused. He's 5 under on the day. I am perplexed by this line in Jeff Darlington's tweet. The police officer attempted to attach himself to Scheffler's car.
Yeah, that's the one that's tripping everybody out, right?
Was it really that critical to get him stopped?
Yeah, I mean, is he like
dramatic much?
Is this officer? Yeah, just are they just hopping on the car and just hanging on for dear life, saying, you better stop? Or
I mean, how fast was he going? Even, I mean, it feels like all indications are that he was. I mean, there was traffic. I mean, how fast could he go? But
unusual to say the least. And the other crazy part, and yeah, producer Mark just pointing this out, the craziest part about all of this is we've just talked. The craziest part about all this, and kind of like I lost you there for a second.
That's okay.
As Mark pointed out, Virgil has told us a couple times that Scotty is the squeakiest clean guy on the planet. And he's almost so squeaky clean, as dominant as he is, that he's kind of boring for golf. And I don't think this was a part of any new PR campaign to try and get him, a bad boy image, because that seems a little far-fetched even for him. But, man, very odd that the number 1 player in the world who's got this crazy clean image, you'd wake up and hear that he is arrested. I mean, I did like a triple take when I read that this morning.
I literally woke up and saw this. Yeah, it's really bizarre, and obviously we'll be paying attention to his post-round press conference and what happens over the rest of the weekend and beyond with this. But it's eye-catching to say the least. Let's go ahead and take a break here from the Lee Company Studios on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll be joined by Nashville Sounds play-by-play voice Jeff Hems. Stay with us after the break.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another real estate auction Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. in the beautiful Hickory Woods subdivision. This spacious estate offers numerous amenities, perfect for the homeowner or investor. Conveniently located in Davidson County, Tennessee at 221 Wild Grove Court. This is the sale you don't want to miss. Join Bluegrass and bid with confidence Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Weekend Update continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are now joined by Nashville Sounds play-by-play voice, Jeff Hem, coming to us from Jacksonville. Jeff, we were talking about the PGA Championships in the previous segment. Have you had a chance to get the sticks out down there?
No golfing. That is a very scary proposition for me to be on a golf course. It would not go well. It's been a while since I've golfed, but I did get outside on a lovely day here in Jacksonville and got the body moving a little bit, got a little exercise, but it was not in the form of golf.
Got you.
There are a lot of members of the team, though. I will say there are a lot of sets of golf clubs that are aligned along the wall near the clubhouse downstairs. So I think the Sounds contingent has had a good golf presence in Jacksonville so far this week.
Hey, that's a good question. I know every team is different, but who is either the best Sounds golfer you've seen ever, Jeff, or who is maybe the current leader in the clubhouse on this year's team?
Yeah, I firsthand haven't seen much other than our Sounds Foundation golf outing a few weeks ago. I was out there for a little bit. I didn't play in it, but I was watching a little bit. So I saw a couple of guys swing. Hitting coach Al LaBeouf is a tremendous golfer. Our pitching coach Jeremy Accardo is a very avid golfer. Nick Bennett on the pitching staff, I'm told, is a phenomenal golfer. Former Louisville product. I actually need to ask Nick if how much he's ever been around Valhalla in his college days. So there are a number of good golfers on the team. Those are a few. Aaron Ashby loves to play golf, and I think he's pretty good at it. Jansen Junk, I know last year, I don't know the course. I think it might have been a Middle Tennessee course, had a hole-in-one at one point. So we got some golfers on the team, and I'm proudly not one of them because I would drag the group down.
I get that. I get that. So a little extra luggage on this road trip then, huh?
12 games, man. It's the only 12-game trip the team has this year. It's we've talked about, I think we talked about this last week. Like, there are so many benefits for everybody, I think, of the 6-game series. There's only one or maybe only a couple of potentially negative indirect byproducts, and I think the occasional 12-game trip is one of them, or a 12-game homestand from a front office standpoint. That's a bear to get through from a staff standpoint, and the Sounds have one of those, and this is the only 12-game trip. I think we had a couple last year. There's usually at least one. This year it's only one. But interestingly enough, the team is playing some of its best baseball on the year. Right now, they're 6-3 on this trip. It's never easy to win in Durham, even though that's not a great Durham team record-wise. They hit as well as anybody, and that's a hitter's ballpark. So the pitchers did well last week in a challenging setup. And this Jacksonville team, it's so much about when you get somebody. This Jacksonville team is just not very strong right now. I'm sure part of it is what's going on in Miami. They've taken some guys. The Marlins have had a ton of high-level pitching injuries, which then thins out the depth chart. So the Sounds are getting Jacksonville at a really good time. Now you still have to play the game, and the Sounds have had a good series so far. So 6-3 on the trip. A win tonight would guarantee a winning road trip. And if you're telling me you're going to have a winning record at the end of the 12-game road trip, you're taking that. You are taking that before they can take the opportunity to take the question away from you. So it's been a good trip so far.
Absolutely. Was just getting ready to mention that 6-3 on this road trip. So the road has been pretty good to the Sounds. The 12-game trip notwithstanding, including last night's 5-2 victory at Jacksonville, which gets the Sounds to the 500 mark for the first time in almost a month since actually falling to 500 at 11-11 up at Louisville back on April 23rd. So again, stringing a few wins together and doing it in close fashions, surviving some games, looks like.
Yeah, there are two things that have happened to create this stretch, or the opportunity to have this stretch. One is that overall, from the big league level with Milwaukee, the Sounds, and the AA Biloxi level right below us, all three of those they all can go together at times, but individually, each of those three teams has gotten healthier in the last week or two. The Sounds getting Chris Roller back recently, and he just got up and he made his big league debut the other day. That's one guy that has come back. And Christian Yelich back for Milwaukee, and AA getting a few guys back. The depth chart has grown, which just creates good opportunity to win ball games at all three of those levels. Milwaukee, in this case, being the most important of them. So that's one. Everybody's gotten healthier, all three of those levels throughout the organization. And then because of that, there's been greater ability to move some guys up to different levels. And the Sounds this week have added two players who've brought ingredients that the team had been lacking. Wes Clark hit his first AAA home run last night. Power is his biggest calling card. And he was one of the guys that was hurt earlier in the year at AA. Otherwise, he might have been here sooner. But he has jumped right into the middle of the lineup. Had a great series so far here in Jacksonville. Had a couple of hits in his first game. Homered last night. The Sounds have scored a pretty good amount of runs this year in terms of their run scoring ranking, but they're toward the bottom of the league in home runs. And they also play in a largely pitcher-friendly ballpark. So adding a power bat like Wes Clark has been very helpful already, and he hasn't even played a game yet at First Horizon Park. The other new addition is shortstop Freddie Zamora, who was a second-round pick a few years ago by the Brewers out of Miami. For years was a high-level prospect. He did not have great offensive numbers so far this year at AA. So he's sort of being tested in a sense of like, hey, show us you can reclaim a little bit of that, meaning the Brewers saying, show us. And Freddie, the Sounds have not had a true shortstop defensively so far this year, and he already has made some terrific plays on the middle of the infield. The Sounds have had a lot of guys who've played shortstop, but not many who are true shortstops. So the power of Clark and the defense from Zamora, and Freddie's also hit really well his first 3 games, but those 2 ingredients have been lifted for this ball club, and there haven't been a lot of weaknesses on this Sounds team other than the health, but those are 2 that have been improved by these additions. So it's having a good effect up and down the lineup and throughout the roster and the organization. Those components have led to a really good stretch here lately for the Sounds.
Jeff, I got to ask you, I know we'll get into the more intricacies of the series and baseball, but you're in Jacksonville and you're taking on the Jumbo Shrimp. I just simply got to ask what the concession stand looks like and kind of what, if any, special amenities they have down there.
Well, they're doing some renovating at the ballpark. They're changing one of the areas out in right field. I know they're making some different improvements that I think are supposed to be open for next year. I truthfully have not I really haven't explored the food portion of the ballpark too much because upstairs is where the press level is, and that's typically where the food is then provided for the schmoes like me. But I have not, so I can't say like, oh, they've got this amazing shrimp, entree downstairs. But the ballpark, it's a good setup, and we can wave to the Jaguars across the street there. They're out in the right field corner there, if that's showing up very well. And we got palm trees all around the park. Like it sounds kind of weird to say, but like you come to Florida, visually for me, it's like, well, I want to feel like I'm in Florida. Well, I can see a bridge that's going over the nearby river. I can see palm trees everywhere I look, and there's the Jaguars Stadium. So like, as I'm calling the game in Florida, it feels like you're in Florida. Sometimes the backdrop does not necessarily reflect where you might be. So I enjoy coming here for like the sightlines and the vibe. There's great food in this town that I've gotten to enjoy. I can't vouch for their ballpark food necessarily, but I have no reason to think it wouldn't be pretty good here given where we're at.
You know, that makes me wonder too. We've had a couple of the guys on the show in the last couple of weeks from, Minnesota all the way down to, Central America. And weather has kind of come up, especially during the early part of the season. Do the guys get extra kind of jazzed up, especially those that are maybe from either really colder or really warmer climates, knowing that you're going to get to go to a pretty reasonably warm location like Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think they do. The other cool part of this, like Carlos Rodriguez starts tonight. He was born in Nicaragua, but around, I think he said age 9 or 10 is when his family moved to Miami. Miami's several hours away, but relatively speaking, when you look at the different places we go, it's not that far away. Carlos is going to have some family and friends in the stands getting to watch him pitch tonight. We were in Louisville a few weeks ago. Several guys are from Ohio or the Cincinnati area. Chad Patrick made a start. He's from Crown Point, Indiana, which at that point was only a few hours away. Family and friends got to see him. Last week in Durham, Noah Campbell, who subsequently got sent back to AA, but had a great week in Durham. He's a Raleigh-Durham native. So I think that's what I observe gets some guys really jazzed up, where it breaks up the potential monotony of sort of the schedule and the destinations you go when, hey, you're close to home or you've got family in town. Or when we were in Louisville, Nick Bennett pitching and having played at Louisville. And so those components are always kind of a cool feature within the schedule when, hey, we're playing a 6-game series, no matter where we're playing, those are kind of a dime a dozen. It becomes a little bit more special when you get that component too. So I know Carlos, who's been pitching great, is looking forward to tonight. And part of that is that his family and some friends can easily drive up, whereas it's a little bit more challenging on some of the other spots we go.
And if nothing else, gives you a little extra something to sprinkle into your broadcast throughout the course of the series, I imagine.
No question about it. Absolutely. I mean, you're looking for those kind of cool tie-ins. I got Noah Campbell on the pregame show last weekend, and yeah, some of it is copy and paste. How's it feeling? How's your season going? But when he could talk about getting to see his dogs, I was like, all right, now we're going in a different direction on this interview. follow up on the dogs. And I said it on the air later. I said, you go into an interview having an idea of where it might go, but I literally said on the air, I didn't think we would talk about Noah Campbell's dogs when we started that interview. And so, like, those are kind of some of the fun connections you can make with these players when they're in a hometown or they've got their family and friends coming. And so that's a cool component. Whereas, no doubt, as the announcer, you're looking for those little angles and storylines to, and then when Campbell hit a huge home run in the Sunday game, it was a big moment for the sounds in the game, but it was an even bigger moment the way I could describe it on his behalf, because he told me he was at Durham Bulls Athletic Park for his 6th birthday. He had told me he got a BJ Upton autograph. Like, you're getting that kind of stuff, and you don't get that unless you do a little bit of homework to figure out what might be connecting a guy to a certain spot that we go on the road. That stuff is gold as a broadcaster.
Absolutely. Jeff Hem, the radio voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. Jeff, days start to run together, but the point I'm trying to make, Robert Gasser has been really good for the Brewers over his first couple of starts.
Oh man, it's so cool to see. Like, that stuff just never gets old. Like, part one is just the amazing story of anybody getting to the big league level. That in and of itself is a major accomplishment that is sometimes I don't think give it enough credit, because it's just so hard to get there. That right there, whether he gets crushed and comes back and never gets back, like, it's still an amazing accomplishment. Then to do what he's done for a first place team is really cool. It's also cool when you see the potential in a guy at AAA, and you're just hoping when he does get that shot that some of what has led to that success can bear itself out at the major league level, and that has come through. Robert Gasser is not necessarily doing anything differently up there than he ever did down here. Harder level, no doubt. Overall better hitters, no doubt. But he's still the same pitcher. He's still throwing the same pitches. He's still taking the same approach, and it's getting big league hitters out just like it got AAA hitters out. So that part is really cool. And there has to be a psychological trickle down benefit to other players who are at AAA when they see a guy go up and they're like, oh, okay, I knew he was good. His stuff is playing up there. Maybe I can do that. And they believe that, but this game is filled with self-doubt. So when they can answer that self-doubt of like, hey, I've seen him do it down here, he's doing it up there. When I get my chance, there's no reason to think I can't do that. It's just a win on so many levels, and those never get old. And I don't think we're going to see Robert Gasser in a Sounds uniform anytime soon.
It doesn't sound like. He got the start Wednesday against Pittsburgh, went 5 innings, scattered 6 hits, allowed 1 earned run, walked 1, struck out a pair. The Brewers won 10-2. That was that his second or his third start?
He said 2. That was 2.
Okay, that was his second start. Okay, so he's won both his starts, and he's got a 0.82 ERA. I think you're right. I don't think we're going to see him in First Horizon anytime soon, and that's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time. It's a really weird way to say it, and if you are only focused on like the Nashville level, it's going to sound like insincere. But these guys don't want to be Sounds. They love Nashville. They love our ballpark. Trust me. If you could be at AAA, you want to be in Nashville. They say that all the time. They love everything that the Sounds are and what the ballpark and city and the atmosphere and the vibe. They love it all. But they're also this close to the next level, and the next level is the pinnacle. So whenever they leave, we always sort of say like, hope I never see you again. And you mean it from the standpoint of wanting them to do well at the big league level, even though you like them as people and you realize that they don't dislike being at AAA, but the carrot being dangled is so close when you get to that level. So I hope we never see Robert Gasser again, even though I really like Robert Gasser. And I think when you think of what's at stake, people understand what you mean when you say that.
Absolutely. And to that end, one of the highlights last night, Joey Weimer is down on a rehab assignment and had a single in 4 at bats, I guess.
Yeah, he let's see, he had 4 at bats, and then after the 4th one, he came out defensively. He scored from first on an extra base hit too, which is a good test for his knee. Let's see, 3 at bats, 1 for 3 last night. But looked good, yeah, and played a partial game by design. He's going to DH tonight, so I don't know what the plan is for how many days he'd be here, and he's got to get up to playing a full 9-inning game where he's playing on defense. Make sure you feel okay the next day. Maybe do that back-to-back days, and then you're checking boxes. And we'll see what that means from a roster standpoint. But again, like you talk about that depth chart, you get him back, then all of a sudden somebody might have to come back down, but that also just means the depth chart is greater. So getting Joey back, whether he's activated and optioned or activated and stays up there, is a win for the Brewers and the Sounds, and that's trending in the right direction right now.
Absolutely. Jeff Hamm of the Nashville Sounds joining us here on Main Street Sports today. They finish up their series at Jacksonville, 6:05 tonight?
Yeah, 6:05 tonight, 5:35 tomorrow, and then 1:05 on Sunday. And then finally, we're back in our friendly confines.
And then you guys come home to take on Charlotte Tuesday.
Yeah, Charlotte comes in, 6-game homestand. A lot going on with the promotional calendar. I think there's 5 different theme nights coming up. Fireworks, the Tail Wagon Tuesdays. It's going to be a fun weekend. Our first Copa de la Diversión game is next Sunday, where the Sounds will play as the Guitars, the Vihuelas. So that gets ramped up. So we'll see some special jerseys and fun going on in the ballpark with the atmosphere and the music and just the vibe there. It's going to be a fun weekend, and gosh, then we're already into June, which is just wild to say.
It really is. Jeff, we appreciate it. Look forward to catching up with you again soon. And we still need to revisit that perfect game deal that we talked about last week, because
we do.
I need to get a little bit more educated on that. And I would just love to know what's being said in the clubhouse and in clubhouses across professional baseball about that topic, because there's a lot there to unpack. But we will catch up and enjoy the rest of your weekend down in Jacksonville.
Sounds great. See you guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
When we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, we will talk a little bit more baseball of the major league.
Wild horses are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway.
That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
May 17th, 1970, Hank Aaron $3,000th of his career, making him the first player in Major League history to reach both 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. His and the third was his 570th. That was this day in Braves history. 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. That's solid.
Pretty dang sharp, my friend.
The stat that has always boggled my mind every time I've heard it referring to Hank Aaron is if you took away every one of his 755 home runs, he would still have more than 3,000 hits.
Yeah, now that will blow your mind.
Yeah, that's I don't know if there is another, lifetime stat in sports that quite compares to that, but that gets my attention every time I hear it. Braves again open a 4-game series tonight against visiting San Diego. The Padres have Matt Wall. 5.49 ERA for the 22-24 Padres. Braves coming in at 26-14, and they've got Max Fried going 3-1 with a 3.57 as they try to put the taste of that 7-1 loss to the Cubs out of their mouths. They continue the series at 6:15 tomorrow, 6:10 on Sunday, and they've got a breakfast with the Braves. I guess it's 12:20 Atlanta time, 11:20 here on Monday to close that one out. So, and I at the week talking about AJ Minter and not talking about him in glowing terms, although I think his last outing resulted in a save. So, life is good. I didn't get to see Wednesday's game, and it's just as well. But hopefully they can get It's funny when you say hopefully they can get going in the right direction, and you're referring to a team that's 26-14, but hopefully they can get going in the right direction against San Diego this weekend. They open a series against Milwaukee tonight. Freddie Peralta going for the Brewers, Hunter Brown going for the Astros. 7:10, 6:10 tomorrow, 1:10 on Sunday. And as you mentioned, there are those that might say, well, maybe it's the schedule, but maybe the Astros are coming around. I think you'll know a little bit more about them after this weekend.
I think so. And the good news is maybe that's enough of a shot in the arm to kind of put them in the right direction. As got a great effort last night for Christian Javier. What did he end up with? 9 or 10 strikeouts. Like he was dealing. And yeah, it's Oakland, but this is a team that couldn't afford to be beggars and choosers in terms of who they got wins against. So maybe get some wins there. You get a throwback NL Central rivalry coming to town here when Milwaukee arrives. So I'm looking forward to hopefully some more positive vibes. It'd be nice if Houston can put something together. Milwaukee's tied with Atlanta with those 26 wins. So it would be a nice little test for Houston if they could pull off a couple dubs at home, maybe versus Milwaukee this weekend.
Javier with 8 strikeouts in 6 innings, and Sean Dubin with the 3-inning save there. So nice work when you only have to dip into the bullpen once, and obviously the offense had a lot to do with that with the 8-1 victory there. So again, Astros showing some signs of life, creeping to within 6 games of 500 at 19-25 at this point. And Bregman last night 2 for 4 with a run scored. So you like to see that.
You can't stop him right now. You can only hope to contain him. And they're doing this too. I forget what's going on. Altuve had missed a couple games, but he's back at the top of the lineup now. He had a hit and kind of setting the table. Kyle Tucker's been the guy that's really been kind of keeping them afloat, what little bit they have been afloat thus far. So if you get Bregman going and maybe somehow, some way the pitching kind of starts turning around, they could be formidable. And the good news is the rest of that division, they're still only 5 games back because not Milwaukee, Seattle is in first place, but they're 4 games above 500, and Texas only at 1 game above 500. Houston is the hottest team. Obviously, you might suspect that after a sweep, but they're the hottest team in the division over their last 10 with 7 wins. Nobody else has more than 5 in that period. So they're kind of trending in the right direction. And yeah, it's going to be a fun series heading into this weekend versus an old foe.
Yeah, nobody's really taking control of the West. So, if you're Houston, you kind of want to take advantage of the fact that, we can string some wins together. We're still in this thing. And at some point they got to still feel like, we are the Houston Astros, right?
Yeah, I think they haven't been able to kind of puff their chest or flex that old school swagger at all really this year. They never got off to a fast enough start to kind of do so. And I don't know if you put a lot of stock into that, but at some point that does kind of carry over. And the one critical thing was the managerial staff had said this, and I mentioned it on the show a couple of weeks ago, was the veterans were trying to do too much almost because they knew that they were playing subpar ball. And so in an effort to kind of rewrite the ship or right the ship, so to speak, they were kind of overextending themselves.
Right.
And now it seems like they've settled into a groove. But yeah, you let them get a little confidence, and then you maybe play, some more teams like the Athletics or the Angels, or maybe even start picking off games versus the Rangers in the next couple of weeks. And then I think they'll be right back where they need to be, hopefully.
Yeah. Pittsburgh is playing right now at Wrigley Field against the Chicago Cubs. And it appears Paul Skeens is doing Paul Skeens things. And it's intriguing to me in that he made his first start Saturday against the Cubs at PNC, and 5 days later they hook up again, and this is the result that you've gotten, because you would think that the Cubs would have kind of benefited from having just seen him a few days back. Apparently not. Oh, by the way, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, no hits.
He's been tearing it up and looking pretty good in his 2 starts, and he's got some competition, no doubt. Shota Imanaga on the Cubs is right there, but Rookie of the Year is something that probably will get tossed about for this guy.
If he keeps this up, I don't know how you don't certainly mention his name in that manner. And when you see a young pitcher like a Paul Skeens, like a Robert Gasser, who we just discussed in the last segment with Jeff Him, when you see this kind of thing, you kind of wait for the other shoe to fall, but it doesn't have to fall. So we'll see. I don't know how many pitches he's thrown. 81. He's thrown 81 pitches in 5 innings. So, if this does continue in this direction, he's going to get some help at some point. But this is kind of what folks, particularly Pirate fans, were waiting for while he was down at Indianapolis. So I'll be intrigued to see how much longer he stays in this ball game, and what that K number and what that hit number looks like at the end. So, Wade, speaking of young talent, stop me if you've heard this name before. Elly De La Cruz. Exactly. Stole 4 bases last night against LA in a 7-2 Reds victory. Elly De La Cruz in 44 games has stolen 30 bases on 35 attempts. Now, those are numbers that if you project them out over the entire season, I think the number that I saw was 110. Now, does he continue to run like this? Do teams continue to not be able to defend him any better on the base paths than this? I don't know, but I said it last year before the Braves played him. I said it when the Braves played him. This kid is worth the price of admission. I mean, if there's a 5-tool guy in Major League Baseball right now, this is it. So much fun to watch, unless he's playing your team.
Of course, yeah, that's the caveat, right? He's electric. Obviously, I'm not blowing anybody's mind when I say this, but the craziest part is you got to get on base 4 times to steal 4 bases, pretty much.
Something to that.
Although you can nab a couple, I suppose, in one go. This is the wild part too. Ricky Henderson's got 130 back in '82. He got caught 42 times that year, and nobody has really even attempted 130 since then. So it will be interesting because obviously they brought him up, middle of the way last year, and he obviously stole the show and kind of burst on the scene
literally
in a huge way. And then you're wondering what he might do with a full season at his disposal. And if you remember, Cincinnati was kind of in the mix for quite a bit last year. And so that will be interesting to see if his game kind of changes a little bit as Cincinnati, they're sitting there 6 games under 500, but the Brewers, as we've discussed, are playing so well. They may not have a real shot to compete for the division. But if the games start getting pretty meaningful, what does this game look like then? Does he change anything? Do they get more aggressive with him? Do they get less aggressive with him? But for now, he is electric, and he's pretty much must-see TV, especially, obviously, if they're playing your squad.
I think care of it even better, I think. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, and we will be heading into the break.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
We are back for the second hour of the weekend update here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. Wade is fully connected. I have been less so, apparently, so hopefully we have tended to some technical difficulties, and I should be good to go the rest of the way. A little iffy-wiffy here, as it were, but Wade, let's catch up on some college softball and baseball. We've talked a little bit about Trevecca's postseason run here on these same airwaves over the last bit. Will they it became quite the affair, but eventually they wrapped up with a 6-0 loss yesterday up at UIndy to drop that best of 3 series. That was the third game of the series. They lost the first one 4-0, played through some rain and some delays and that kind of thing. 1-0 to force that third and final game, and again lost that 6-0. So finished up a 47-15 season. I think this was their first super regional appearance. So congrats to the Lady Trojans there. Heck of a year.
Yeah, good run and wild results, honestly. 4-0, 1-0, 6-0. The games were seemingly tightly contested. Obviously, you were hoping to get a dub, but yeah, fantastic season, and you finished just shy of making that really, really special run. But getting to super regionals obviously is nothing to hang your head about.
Not at all. Baseball kind of picking up where softball left off after winning the Great Midwest Athletic Conference Tournament Championship. The Trojans have gone into NCAA Division II Midwest Region play, and as I said, picking up where softball left off, they opened with a 16-4 victory over the host, Indy Greyhounds, and earned themselves a day off. Apparently, with that, they are scheduled to play tomorrow at 1 o'clock against Maryville University. I think that's Maryville of Missouri, not to be confused with Maryville College over in Maryville. So 4-team region up there, along with Trevecca, Maryville, and U of Indy. You've also got Regis University up there. So interesting setup there. If I'm reading that right, I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Anyway, Trevecca baseball continues Midwest Regional play this weekend, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. With this being the final weekend of Division I baseball regular season play before most of these conferences start their conference tournaments next week, kind of keeping an eye on some final standings and that kind of thing. And Middle Tennessee trying to qualify for the 8-team Conference USA field. They dropped a pretty significant loss yesterday to visiting Dallas Baptist. Don't have that score right in front of me. I think it was 15-1. Not great for the Blue Raiders. But as Chip told us earlier in the week, MTSU's magic number is 1 for qualifying for the Conference USA tournament. So as soon as I saw that they had lost yesterday to Dallas Baptist, well, my first question was, well, what did Jacksonville State do? Well, Jacksonville State didn't do anything because they got rained out at Sam Houston, and so they are playing a doubleheader today. And again, any combination of 1 MTSU win or 1 Jacksonville State loss qualifies MTSU as the final team in the Conference USA tournament next week.
And that's the thing. You just get into the dance, however you got to get in. And baseball is a wild and weird enough sport that if you get into the conference tournament, no matter, we see it every year, no matter how dominant a team looks, it is not a guarantee that they're going to win either their conference tournament, or their regional, or even a super regional. So get into the dance and then see what happens. I mean, we've seen, MTSU threw a no-hitter earlier this season. So, they have the capability to put up some games where they scored a lot of runs. So if you can get in, maybe make some magic happen, and who knows what happens over the course of that conference tournament there at that point.
Give yourself a chance. So in SEC play, Tennessee opened with a 9-3 win against South Carolina last night, and Vanderbilt fell 10-5 at Kentucky as the Commodores try to improve their resume heading into Hoover next weekend. I think that field is already set. All 12 teams are set, and everybody is in except Auburn and Missouri. So we will be keeping an eye on Hoover next week and how the rest of this weekend wraps up. Again, UT and South Carolina will play again tonight and tomorrow to wrap it up. Vanderbilt continues its series in Lexington tonight and tomorrow. And we've got NCAA Division I softball going on. I was watching a little bit of Florida Gulf Coast in Florida earlier today. Florida was winning that one 2-0 late And I'm trying to find some scores here as we speak. And I'm not seeing it. Anyway, we've got a boatload of college softball tournament play going on today and tomorrow. We'll have first round action all day today at the 16 various sites, I think. So, and again,
I do know, you said Florida did defeat Gulf Coast.
Did they?
6-0. I'm keeping tabs on the Lady Wolverines, as it were. Michigan's playing Kentucky. They're out in the Stillwater Regional after they won the Big Ten tournament. Tennessee is up on Dayton 2-0. That game's in the 5th inning. And Auburn's in the closest game of them all, 6-4 versus UCF down in Tallahassee.
Wait, are you still there?
Still there. And I was getting ready to tell you, I can also tell you guys, Texas is scoreless versus Siena. Number 1, Texas is in a dogfight versus Siena. Nobody has scored yet, but that's only because that game is still in the top of the first. So now middle of the first. So now the scoring can begin. Texas presumably will run to victory there.
A little tease there. Let's see.
Let's see. Georgia up on UNC Wilmington, and that game's down in Athens, and then in Lafayette it's Baylor 1, Ole Miss 0. And pretty close game right now, Moat. LSU's only leading Jackson State 1-0 in the Baton Rouge Regional. That game is in the 4th.
It's in the 4th. Okay, I've got the bottom of the 3rd here. So yeah, that makes sense with my Wi-Fi being what it is. So okay. We've already got some finals apparently. Southern Illinois beat Cal 5-4. Wouldn't have exactly expected that, I don't think. But South Carolina with a 2-1 win over Utah. Did you go through these?
The only one was Georgia, or excuse me, Florida, who defeated Gulf Coast.
Okay.
So,
that
Southern Illinois is a little bit of a surprise. You
would not have expected that.
Name recognition. And a game that's in progress, Southeast Louisiana is currently leading Clemson 6-2. Speaking of household names that are trailing.
Exactly. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Clemson and Duke with Marion Angus Combs when we had her on a couple of weeks ago. Those are two relatively new programs out of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they've had a lot of success. So yeah, again, that's not necessarily what you would have expected to see out of Clemson at this point, trailing against Southeast Louisiana, and that's deep. We're into the top of the 7th on that one.
And we mentioned Tennessee was up on Dayton 2-0 in their game, but in that same regional earlier today, it was Virginia defeating Miami, Ohio 7-0. So Tennessee hoping to join Virginia in the win column there as they continue to progress up there in Knoxville.
Wow. We're struggling a little bit, we being me. So I'll tell you what, Wade, let's go ahead and go to a break here real quick and see if I can get some things adjusted here and come back to the Lee Company studios on Main Street Sports Today. We are just ahead of having VALAIR SHABILLA come on with us to talk a little Nashville Soccer Club talk. So stay tuned with us after the break, and we'll see what we can get done between now and then.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway.
That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Wild horses are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Third time's a charm? Maybe.
Come on.
We are continuing with the second hour of the weekend update here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, coming to you from the remote Lee Company studios of our homes. And my home's Wi-Fi is giving me fits. So hopefully we can get through this next 42 minutes here till 4 o'clock without any further interruptions. We'll see how that goes. In a few minutes, we should be joined by VALAIR SHABILLA, talking a little NSC. If you've not heard, they made a coaching change yesterday. We discussed it a little bit here yesterday, but we did not get Wade's input in that. Wade's probably a little bit more knowledgeable than either Chris or I, probably more knowledgeable than Chris and I. But Wade, what were your thoughts about that?
Well, my immediate thought was it's always interesting or funny whenever you have a decent result and then you see this news. And after they picked up the win at midweek, you wake up the next morning and you read these headlines, and it was kind of caught me off guard. The other thing that kind of caught me a little off guard, and we'll chat with VALAIR about it in depth, but I think there were rumblings, maybe even from the start of the season, that Gary's job potentially was in jeopardy. But then as the season went along, it didn't feel like there was this major groundswell outside of, the real kind of diehard supporters that were kind of already had made up their mind. So in a sense, it seemed like it just caught me a little off guard with the win at midweek, and then also the fact that we hadn't reached that critical mass where like, hey, this guy's got to go. So it kind of just took me a little by surprise of the timing. But you could also obviously make the argument that those really in tune and those that are the decision makers had kind of seen what they needed to see, and a win at the middle of the week wasn't going to change that potentially, or, the plan going forward wasn't going to change that. So they felt compelled to make the move when they did. And that's why we will have a new manager for the first time in the professional, modern era of the program's major history here.
Absolutely. We are now joined by VALAIR SHABILLA to talk a little everyone in. VALAIR, what was your reaction? Good afternoon. What was your reaction to the news from yesterday morning that Gary Smith would not be going forward as coach of NSC?
Yeah, it's similar to what Wade said. Thank you for having me, by the way, and good afternoon to you as well. But similar to what was said, I mean, I think I've said it before. I don't think it's an unfair thing to do for Nashville SC at this point of how far kind of Gary Smith have gotten them. I do think the timing of it was the most shocking. I don't think anybody was surprised that he was relieved of his duties, but the fact that it happened between these two games, I mean, we talked to him to prep for the Atlanta game, which is tomorrow. And after winning the Wednesday night game, and somewhere in between there, they let go of the coach. I think it's a very weird thing to do it in between those two games. At the same time, look, if that's the decision, I think there's some strategic thing behind this. Letting go of Gary Smith right now means that Nashville SC are the first team in MLS this season to let go of their manager. That means they have every single candidate out there to interview right now for this position before anyone else even gets a chance to do so. So I think there was a little bit of that going into their minds as well. We haven't heard anything about who the possible candidate is because this news just happened yesterday, obviously. If I had to guess, the only reason why it would make sense to kind of let go of him in between those two games is because they have something cooking or something's coming up. That would be my only guess onto why they would do it in between these two games. You have a rivalry game coming up against Atlanta, mid-afternoon game. Team just won. Seems like a really weird time to do it, but that would be my guess.
That was kind of our thought as well, VALAIR, that, the team just won. They lost over the weekend over at Charlotte. It might have made a little bit more sense earlier in the week, but I guess if you've decided that that's the direction that you need to go in, then you need to go ahead and go that way.
Yeah, I also think, like in terms of Gary himself, I think he might have known going into the game. I wouldn't be surprised if he did know coming into the game, and the way he answered certain questions post-match made me think that maybe something was told to him beforehand. I don't think any of the players knew. I think that's something that maybe he told them after the match. Yeah, I mean, look, I want to talk a little bit about Gary Smith because I think what he did for Nashville SC is huge. And I think it might go unnoticed because of how it ended, which didn't end well, obviously. We heard very loud boos when he was announced in the stadium, which is honestly very disappointing for the way that he helped Nashville SC become this sort of what I described as victims of their own success and victim of his own success for the most part, because they haven't missed the playoffs. They've never missed the playoffs. And if you look at expansion teams, that's not the story. You look at Cincinnati, you look even at Inter Miami with huge money coming in. They still didn't. You look at Austin, they had one good season. You look at St. Louis right now, this is their second season. They're struggling. So Charlotte, the highest they've made it is a play-in game last season. So when you look at all these expansion teams struggling and you look at Nashville SC making the playoffs every single year, yes, of course you want to win trophies. That's what you play the game for. But at the same time, the floor was so high that it almost made it impossible to succeed unless you win that trophy, unless you bring that trophy. And a lot of that was thanks to Gary Smith, what he did with limited resources when they first came into the league. Now, the salaries just got released yesterday, right before the announcement got released, and Nashville SC have the 4th highest payroll in MLS now. That wasn't always the case. They were in the bottom, or at least in the middle, for the most of his tenure. This is the first year that they are the 4th highest payroll, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. But he hadn't always had these resources, and without those resources, he still took this team to consecutive playoffs, both in USL and MLS, and I think did a great job with what he was given, honestly.
So that said, then, VALAIR, is this a more money, more problems? Is this a Biggie Small situation here?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's not about necessarily more money, more problems, but maybe I think this is the biggest indicator that spending doesn't mean much in this league. I think spending wisely means a lot more than spending in this league. One of the best teams over the last 5 years in MLS is Philadelphia Union. I don't think they've cracked top 10 in salaries this whole time. You'll look at even somebody like LAFC spending less than Nashville SC, and they are, now they have some signings that probably will put them right around Nashville SC coming up. But the point is, what I heard from fans every single time these salaries were released were people telling me that if Nashville SC isn't spending enough, Nashville SC isn't spending enough. And my sort of way of looking at it is that it's not really about the spending, it's about how and what that money is going towards, right? So right now what we saw is, yes, Nashville SC have spent this much money, and guess what? The success doesn't just come with spending. It's a lot more, and that's the other part about Gary Smith, is that he's part of this puzzle, right? There's a general manager, Mike Jacobs, there is a CEO, and Ian Ayre, and there's an owner in John Ingram. Those three we rarely ever hear from, because Gary Smith is the one we hear from every week. Gary Smith's name is being announced in the stadium. He hears the boos. He faces the music from us, the media, and even the fans. So I'm interested to see what comes out of what these other people have to say, because their decisions is, in many ways, is almost as important, if not more important, than Gary Smith, because they're the ones who hired Gary Smith, right? So I think there's been a little bit of maybe, this is, I guess, people are willing to give them benefit of the doubt, depending on what hire and what they do past this, because they've never been in this position of hiring a new manager. But in terms of spending, if I'm the owner and I'm looking at this report and I'm saying, I gave you all this money, you have the 4th highest salary in MLS, my first question is, where's my trophy, right? Like, where is so I think it trickles down way further than just Gary Smith, and I think that's maybe the first piece of the puzzle that they will have to figure out going forward.
Absolutely. And VALAIR, you tweeted yesterday, kind of if you read some tea leaves, or you kind of insinuated a little bit, obviously this was a big situation, and Gary's kind of last words were really kind of thanking the players and supporting the players. And I agree with you. You obviously way more so than me, but the few matches I've been able to go up there and cover, he's been fantastic to work with from a media standpoint. And so in that sense, you are sad to see him go. But kind of it always seemed to come back to this word that we spoke about on this show a couple of weeks ago. Just seems like it was stale or flat. And especially when you kind of drop the knowledge on us that the payroll was so high, that obviously makes it look even more stale or flat. And is this a chance now for Nashville? And I want to ask you maybe about candidates in a moment, but is this now a chance for Nashville that maybe we quote unquote plateaued to a certain extent, and now here's a chance to really maybe hopefully take it to an even higher level?
I think it's a clean slate for them here. I think for Nashville, it's a clean slate. I don't think there are many expectations to do much this season, even though if they get the right hire in, I think they can still compete this season, honestly, because it's so early on, again, which is why they probably made this move early on. I do think it's a clean slate for them, and I think this kind of it is honestly an end of an era in a lot of ways. I am curious to see what sort of manager they go after, and we have almost zero data to tell us how they handle a situation like this, because this has never happened. Nashville SC has had one manager since the day they were formed back in USL to yesterday. They've only had one manager. They've never had to do a manager search. They've never had to interview managers before. So we don't know what that process looks like. We haven't seen it to where if you look at even like the Titans or something like that, that process is a lot more transparent first and foremost in the NFL. So you get to hear about all these interviews. It's not like that in MLS. It's not like that in any soccer anywhere in the world. You might hear some ramblings here and there, but it's not going to be as transparent as something like the NFL, for example. So all that to say, I think what they have in front of them here is an opportunity to maybe take what they learned from Gary Smith. Nashville SC is no longer an expansion team. This is their 5th year in MLS. They are a team that has established themselves in MLS. They have a stadium of their own that they almost sell out every single game, regardless of results even. And it's time for them to, I think, maybe ask, well, what sort of soccer we want to play? Because they were kind of boxed into this defensive mind, Moneyball situation. But I'm not very familiar with baseball, but I don't think Moneyball means your 4th highest MLS salary, right? Like, I don't think that's Moneyball anymore. I think now we're looking at a different iteration of Nashville SC. This is Nashville SC 2.0, and it's up to them what that looks like. If they hire a manager from overseas, if they hire a manager who plays attacking soccer, if they hire a manager who maybe is up and comer from USL or something like that, it could be any of those, right? And it's depending on what they want to do with it. But I do truly believe that this season is still in play for Nashville SC, and I don't think they're operating as in this is for next season. I think they're operating this is for this season.
That's what I was going to ask you, Valair. Do you expect them to hire a coach before this season ends? I mean, what do you feel like the timetable is for getting Gary Smith's successor in place?
I think we're looking at it sooner rather than later. I think that the fact that they did it early on, like we kind of talked about already, the fact that the interim head coach is players development coach with Nashville SC, who hasn't had really even an assistant job anywhere in MLS. He's coached youth teams. So I don't think he's a long-term plan. Now, obviously, things can change, of course. He is the interim head coach at the moment. What I would say is that making this move right before the summer makes me think that there's probably something that has to do with maybe the European season ending. The European season ends next week. That means there will be a lot of managers free to hire or at least interview to where the domestic market is open at any time. You can go and get your guy. But this kind of maybe gives them a little more options to go out to Europe and not have to get somebody mid-season, not midweek. So I would say we're probably looking at a hire sooner rather than later. And I think internally from the organization, they believe that this season is still in play for them.
And they're what, 3-4-5 on the year? 3 wins, 4 losses, 5 ties. Is that correct?
Yep.
So
they're a point away from. Sorry, they're tied in points with the play-in game, and they're a point away from being in the playoff position. So it's not really a big deal.
So, as dire as things have maybe looked on the field, they're not in as bad a position as it feels like. Is that
fair characterization? I think part of it is what I said. I think last time you had me on the show, I told you like a result or two will change the entire trajectory of this team, because 9 teams from the Eastern Conference make the playoffs. That's 9 out of 15 teams. So unless you're really terrible, you're probably going to make the playoffs. And that's the reality of MLS right now. And if you make the playoffs, you get hot. And if a new manager comes in, maybe he brings in 1 or 2 of his guys. Maybe we see 1 or 2 of Gary's guys leave. These things happen all the time, right? Maybe it brings there's a big phenomenon in soccer called new manager bump. It happens almost every time, right? So we've seen it in Europe. We've seen it here in America. And I guarantee you we're probably going to see glimpses of it Saturday. Even if you don't see result fully, we're going to see different play, or players play a little bit differently because there's somebody else to impress. And because whoever their next boss is, right, whoever the next manager is, they want to be in good graces with them because they want to play. So I think for Nashville right now, it's this season, again, it's totally in play simply because a win or two, all of a sudden they're talking about 5th, 6th seed in the East. And look, you keep winning, maybe you play a different style. All of a sudden you're talking about hosting playoffs games. Like it's still all in play.
Winning cures a lot, and you made an interesting point there, Valair, with the new manager bump. I mean, sometimes, and I was talking to somebody about something different, but sometimes a new voice just kind of re-energizes things. Maybe you've seen it in other sports. Obviously, I'm not as immersed in soccer as you are, or even Wade, but I mean, so that is kind of a phenomenon that you have seen in that sport as well, then.
Yeah, it's very common. Even you'll see like a longtime manager leaving, and then the interim will kind of get the team going for Now that has an expiration date. From what we've seen, right? It's like about 3 games or so, and then things kind of start getting back to it. But I think there are these people. Not that the players are hate Gary or anything like that. I think far from it, but I think when you hear the same message for 5 years, chances are if you hear something different, you're going to perform a little bit different, right? And I think if anything, this shows from Nashville SC that if you're not up to bar, we're setting the bar up here, we want to win trophies, and if you're not up to it, then we're going to get rid of you. And I think that message might motivate players a little bit more. And I think that's all part of it. And if you have a new manager come in, maybe they see a little bit different in a technical standpoint. Maybe they see a player play in a different position. Maybe they get that belief back and push to do something special.
Valair, I'm curious. Two questions. Number one, is Nashville a big enough draw in your mind to attract a high profile, at least on paper, name to come in and be the manager here in Music City?
To an extent, yes. I don't think Jose Mourinho's coming here, and I really don't. If he does, those press conferences are going to get really exciting. I'm just going to
talk about one extreme to the other with Gary to Mourinho at that point, right?
I don't think I'll be saying the same thing I said about Gary about Jose Mourinho. With that said, I think there's still opportunity here. We saw Charlotte get Dean Smith, who isn't necessarily a huge name, but he's a Premier League manager at the end of the day, and they were able to get him. And throughout the years, we've seen even players like Wayne Rooney come to DC, and obviously Tata Martino is another big name. But now when you talk about DC and Miami, maybe it's a little different markets and all that. I think from a Nashville perspective, I think you can sell this project to a lot of managers. I think when you say, hey, look, we gave the last guy 7 years to figure this out, I think that's going to play really well with a new manager, right? I think when you also tell them that you have a stadium, you have a fan base that cares, you have players, you have Walker Zimmerman, who was MLS Player of the Year 3 times. You have Hani Mukhtar, who won MVP just 2 years ago. And not to mention all the other players on the team, of course, whether there's Jacob Schaffelberg, who's a Canadian international, or Tyler Boyd, who is still a very, very good MLS player, and Sam Surridge, who is a $7 million striker. Like, this is not a team that is a hard sell, I don't think, when it comes to getting new managers. So I think, yes, it's a possibility. Just based on how this team has operated, getting players in, I find it a little bit hard to believe that they will go and get the biggest name in management. I really don't think they operate in that way. I think it's way more likely that we see a domestic manager, maybe somebody who knows the league a little bit, and maybe it still has that name recognition, but not as big as, a David Moyes, for example, who's been a name thrown out there. I don't see Nashville going for a name like that. Look, I think David Moyes would be great in Nashville. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if the culture matches that. But like I said last time, we don't know who they're going to go for. We just do not know, because this has never happened before, right?
You're tugging at my Everton heartstrings, and our buddy Clay Trainham's as well when you say that name there. But I am curious, what does your gut tell you? And it seems like maybe the domestic route, because it seems like certainly, even if you look as close by as Memphis has had a really successful run. And so I'm curious, that's really, to me, the real question in all of this is how high profile does Nashville go? And Valair, it seems like you seem to think we're going to kind of maybe get somewhere in the middle, maybe not attract the biggest name, but also at the same time, maybe not have to take a flyer on somebody kind of completely at random, it seems like. Is that fair?
Guys back on?
Yep, we lost you briefly. I'm not sure if you heard much of that, Valair, but just mainly, what does your gut tell you? Where does Nashville end up? It seems like somewhere maybe not the highest end, but also maybe not a low end manager as well.
Yeah, I think you're looking at somebody. I think I heard you mention Memphis right before everything cut off. Yeah, they had a really good USL manager who then went on to Charleston and who had found success there as well. So an up and comer USL manager, I don't necessarily get that out. I think that's a possibility for them. I think somebody like Gio Savarese, who was with Portland Timbers, for example, who made it to 2 different MLS Cup finals with Portland Timbers, he's probably in play. I'm just kind of talking about the people who have known this league for a while and are available. And there's a few of them. The biggest name of them all is Bruce Arena, who
Bob Bradley.
Bob Bradley, of course, still out there. He had a brief stint in Norway where he was, and I think it's Norway, and then came back. And so there are sort of the established guys, right? The older established guys, and there are the up and comers, and there are the untested. There are players who are kind of never had a managerial job, is still wanting to kind of test the waters. I highly doubt they go that raw. I think they might go towards a USL guy or an MLS guy. I think those are the most likely routes for Nashville SC based on how we've seen them recruit players. You're recruiting a very American, very English sort of speaking locker room. If you go and get a manager from South America, that probably changes the dynamics a little bit. If you go and get a manager from maybe, Spain or something like that, things are probably a little different. But if you get an American manager who knows MLS really well, I don't think a whole lot changes. At the same time, since it is a clean slate, maybe Nashville SC are like, screw it, we are going to go this South American route, right? I mean, they can do that. They have the sort of capability to do something like that. So I think it's going to go. I honestly think the most likely scenario is they go with a more domestic sort of name. I think somebody within the MLS realms that we've heard of around here. And possibly a small chance that it could be a USL manager who's up and comer. I highly doubt again that will be a European name or a big name manager.
And whoever it is, Valair, from everything that you've said, we shouldn't expect really to know anything until they announce it, basically.
Almost definitely, yeah. The way this team operates is very, very very little comes out. Very little comes out from this team. And even when you look at other MLS teams, they're not like that. I think you see it all the time. The only thing I will say is that because this is not just a Nashville SC thing, there are managers out there with agents who are going to try to link them to this job. Whether it's true or untrue, who knows? You're going to hear some ramblings about who got interviewed or who was considered or who would like the Nashville job all the time, because that happens every time. And I think those agents are going to push their clients, of course, towards something like that. Just depending on the source, don't always believe what you read. That's all I'm going to say. There are a couple really, really trusted sources in MLS that you can trust. Tom Bogert from The Athletic, I will go ahead and say, if Tom Bogert says it, chances are it's very, very true. And there are locally, my colleague Ben Wright, myself, there's a couple other local people who wouldn't know probably, because these are coming from external, right? Because it's coming from the other side. So I would say just keep an eye out. Don't trust, one of those websites that just has like AI written articles. It's not wise. It's not. Don't trust everything on the internet. And there are a lot of trolls out there who just puts out tweets. Just verify the account, and I guarantee you, Jose Mourinho will not be hired by Nashville SC. Famous last words.
Jurgen Klopp also not coming, I guess.
I don't think so. I do not think so.
What Valair is telling you is, unless you see it with at Valair Shabilla, be careful. Valair, we appreciate you taking some time with us here on this Friday afternoon to delve a little deeper into this. Again, Nashville Soccer Club hosting Atlanta United at what, first touch at 12:45 tomorrow? Is that right?
12:30. Yeah, they'll probably do 10 minutes of entertainment. So yeah, 12:45.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Over at Geodis Park, and we will be checking back in with you, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. And the game is on national television as well. So if you don't have Apple Pass, MLS Season Pass, I believe is on Fox or Fox Sports, one of the two.
I believe you're right. So yeah, you can see it on regular TV. Joy. Valair, thanks, man. We'll catch up with you.
Thank you, brother.
When we come back here on Main Street Sports today, it's the final segment of the week. Wade and I will tell you what we are kind of looking forward to this weekend. So stay tuned as we return to the Lee Company studios after this. I'm Maurice Patton, and on Main Street Sports today, we bring you the voices of your favorite teams from preps to pros. Otherwise known as the VOT, Mike Keith.
The bottom line is we can teach Will Levis woke.
I just don't know who's going to work with you on your base stealing now that Eli's gone.
Well, that has nowhere to go but up. And I was just like, oh, guys, not again. Can we just bury that, burn that footage, and not bring it back?
No.
No. Thank you. We'll keep it going past the All-Star break, and looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out. There's always a good story to tell.
Can you guess where I am today, Mo? Where am I?
It's not Reese Smith Field, is it?
Yeah.
Because anytime you play Chicago, you want to win. That's just
you got that right, and
that's bottom
there
line.
could be a buzz.
When you're walking the dog, you keep the bags that you need for the dog in the bag, and you don't even have to wear it. You can just hold it, which is what I do when I walk the dog. So
I think the fanny pack probably needed a little rebranding.
It did. It really did.
On your show logo, we've got to get a puck in there. There's a basketball. There's a football. There's a baseball. Maybe it's not a puck. How about Mo brandishes a hockey stick?
Tune in daily at 2 p.m. on Main Street Media TV.
Winding down the week here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. This is the weekend update. And again, this is the final segment, Wade. We are on the home stretch. We made it through another week.
Been a big one, been a fun one, and looking forward to closing it out in style. Good stuff with Valair as always a moment ago.
No doubt. Yeah. Really, really nice to get someone up close and personal with that situation to discuss it a little bit. Wade, you going up to F&M Arena tomorrow?
You know, I hate that I'm going to miss the regulators, and I hate to even ask this, but I assume it's worth asking at this point. I assume the game is going to happen as it was originally scheduled. Is that correct?
I have not heard anything to the contrary. If you go to the website, thenashvillecats.com, they have a countdown of 23 hours, 40 minutes, and 27, 26, 25 seconds. So yeah, as far as I know, that game is still scheduled for tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, again, at F&M Bank. So I'm F&M Arena, excuse me, not the bank. So yeah, the Cats looking to get even. They are coming into that game at 1-2. Again, won their season opener at Municipal Auditorium, dropped one at Albany, and then fell last week to the Salina Liberty. So Again, 3:30 kickoff tomorrow at F&M Arena as they take on the Regulators of Wichita. And I'm sure our resident alt football expert, Chris Yao, will have plenty to say on Monday regarding that outcome. Speaking of alt football, the UFL heads into week 8 this weekend. 2 games tomorrow as Memphis travels to Michigan. That game can be seen at 3 o'clock Central on Fox, followed by Houston and Birmingham at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. On Sunday, the DC Defenders go to St. Louis for an 11 o'clock kickoff on ABC, followed by Arlington and San Antonio at 3 on Fox. I think Birmingham has already kind of wrapped up the regular season. I'm not sure.
Feels like it anyway.
Yeah, all they do is win, win, win. I'm looking for some standings, and I'm not readily finding them, but that is the slate for this coming weekend in the UFL. NBA playoff action continues, and we got a game 7 following Minnesota's thrashing of Denver last night, 115-70.
Yeah, it was not a good night for Denver. Mike Conley was back for Minnesota, and it seemed like him pulling the strings had everybody clicking. Edwards was back to his normal self, although Edwards had a really scary injury situation where he landed right on that tailbone, and it did not, number one, it looked painful as heck, but also looked like he might potentially depart for a while, but he guts it out. Everybody on Minnesota looked much better. I'm not going to say it was all with Conley being back in the mix, but man, he certainly had that offense humming, whereas Denver did not look great at all. And Jamal Murray's kind of been very odd in this series. He has not really played great in a couple of games. In the games he's not played great in, spoiler, they've not looked great in. And so game 7 is going to be pretty entertaining, I think, because Minnesota, this has been the ultimate head scratcher series. Just when you think you've got it figured out, everything flips. We saw Minnesota clobber Denver the first 2, and then we saw Denver win 3 straight, and you're thinking, okay, this will be a wash. But no. Minnesota came to play last night.
And you could get a second game 7 this weekend if the Pacers are able to push visiting New York tonight. New York leads that series 3-2 going back to Indiana for this 7:30 tip on ESPN. So could be looking at a couple potentially on Sunday.
Could be good there. And then if that's not enough to whet everybody's appetite, if Oklahoma City can somehow pick themselves up off the mat one more time, they play tomorrow night at Dallas. But Luka's been banged up. He doesn't look totally the same. And Dallas had that one game a couple nights ago where they just missed a ton of free throws, which is borderline unthinkable in the NBA. But that'll be a fun game tomorrow night. And then that game 7. So we're looking at potentially 2 game 7s Sunday. And then just to get everybody really a little more jazzed up on Monday, that could be kind of the one to put a bow on this round of the postseason here in the NBA.
And Boston says, yeah, y'all go ahead with your game 7s.
Yeah, Boston
is perfectly fine with it.
Boston's sitting back. Yeah, obviously they want Knicks and Pacers to go 7. Obviously just from the team just wearing down, but they're also thinking if the Pacers win, okay, cool. But they're also thinking if the Knicks win, that gives them one more game for somebody else to get hurt, because the Knicks basically trotting out a 7-man lineup every night. They just continuously have ran into unfortunate depth issues, and it has not been pretty. But they still lead that one, and I will not be shocked if they go in and beat Indianapolis tonight. I'm kind of hoping for game 7 only if for nothing else. on Sunday afternoon, we get one more game back at the Garden in a Game 7 situation. That place has been electric. It always is, but it has been at a crazy, crazy level this year. And seeing that Sunday afternoon would be pretty epic.
You know, I just think that Knicks fans have been so hungry for success that they have really turned it up to another level in this postseason.
Yeah, they have brought the energy, and it's kind of unfortunate because, again, Thibodeau obviously always gets the rep of running the guys into the ground, and you're thinking that's kind of what has happened here, but it's really just been dumb luck and unfortunate injuries. They've seen a couple guys take knocks throughout this series, and it has not been kind of the traditional Thibodeau just running everybody into the ground. So if they can pick themselves up off the mat, it does feel like, though, that Boston is kind of just sitting back, just licking their chops. Just doesn't matter who they get. They're feeling like they're going to cruise in that series. At least that's what they're thinking. We'll see.
Sure. You know, is it as simple as because Mystic Dan won the Kentucky Derby and he is running the Preakness that he is the favorite for the Preakness?
You know, conventional wisdom would tell you that. How many times, though, do we see that this doesn't play out? I did text a friend of mine today who wanted me to remind some folks. And this I found kind of interesting. There is a horse that's racing this weekend, Tuscan Gold, who's a Chad Brown owned horse, and you know he's had some chops in this game a long time. Could have ran in the Derby, but decided to skip, which usually you don't hear that part. Usually you hear about a horse skipping the Preakness and then saving up for the Belmont, but skips the Derby. And Chad Brown has pulled this move off before, so wouldn't be surprised, my buddy says, if Tuscan Gold can make a run. Mystic Dan, it'd be cool, obviously, to set up the Triple Crown. I am not going to be shocked if he does not pull it off, though, after an epic run a couple of weeks ago in Louisville. I'm not going to be surprised / almost not expecting him to pull it off this weekend.
He is, if my math serves me correctly, at 8-5. He is the favorite. Imaginations at 3-1. Catching Freedom is at 7-2, and Tuscan Gold is at 9-2. That seems to be half the field, basically, because Muth has scratched. And everybody else is a double-digit odd coming into tomorrow's race up at.
And those will change a little bit with the way that horse betting odds go. Those will change a little bit between now and then. And you mentioned Imagination too. He's a Bob Baffert horse, which you can't really ever discount him.
Enough said, right?
Yeah, just all the other stuff aside. I mean, at the end of the day, he knows what he's doing. But my buddy says poor position and lost his last race, so maybe not coming in with a little bit of a run here. But the Preakness is fun, and like we always obviously hope and pray that the Derby winner. That's the only bad part when we kind of have an underdog in the Derby is it kind of really limits your expectations or excitement level for the Preakness, unless they can pull it off, and then obviously it's right back on getting ready to head to the Belmont in a couple of weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. So to kind of gin up that excitement for the Belmont, you'd like to see Mystic Dan come through tomorrow. So we'll see how that one goes. Wade, what you got going this weekend? Anything? Nothing?
This weekend, a couple friends are visiting from out of town in Nashville, so we're going to hang there. Definitely going to be watching some NBA playoffs. Going to check out, maybe go to Geodis, maybe check out that match tomorrow to see the fans show up and support. Rumba Munthali is the interim man. So he's hopefully going to get some love. Don't know that he'll get a shot long term, but it'll be fun to watch him. What you got cooking?
Can't get into it in 24 seconds. We'll talk more about it on Monday when we come back at 2:00 right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We will see y'all again 2:00 Monday. Have a great weekend.